Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting of the Glendora Unified School District Board of Education to order at 7:03. Please stand and join me with the flag salute. In the flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Put my glasses on. I'll let the roll call show that we have two board members absent, Mrs. Merkley and Mr. Allenson. And I need a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Dr. Fernando and seconded by Mrs. Reuter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Vote carries 3-0. And just to let the public know, when I learned that we were only going to have 3 board members here tonight, I wanted to be sure that we were legal to make decisions. It's called a quorum, and according to Government Code 36810, a quorum of 3 members may be present before council has authority to act. And we also have board policy 9320, and I'm going to ask Ms. Vicar if she would read that for us.
I will. Meetings of the governing board are conducted for the purpose of accomplishing district business. In accordance with state open meeting, hang on a second. Open meeting laws, the board shall hold its meetings in public and shall conduct sessions during these meetings only to discuss confidential matters specified by law, to encourage community involvement. It's a very sensitive little device here, I'm sorry. To encourage community involvement in the school meetings, shall provide opportunities for questions and comments by members of the public, and shall be conducted in accordance with the law by the board adopted bylaws. A board meeting exists whenever a majority of the board members gather at the same time in place to hear and discuss and deliberate upon any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or district.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The only statement from me tonight is just to remind you that we do not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of the board meetings. Persistent disruption by an individual or group shall be grounds for the president to determine the privilege of addressing the board. And that's Board Bylaws 9323. With that, we move on to public comment, and I have several cards here, so I'll call them in the order that they were handed to me. Alex Thomas.
Is it on?
It should be.
Hello?
There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Alex Thomas. I'm a senior at Glendora High School and am the vice president of Turning Point USA here at Glendora. First off, I would like to say thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. This picture right here is a picture of celebrities up top, athletes in the middle, and students with masks on the bottom. The students with masks on the bottom have masks on. The other two do not. Really? Celebrities and professional athletes can be unmasked, but students can't? That makes 0 sense. Let us students have the choice if we want to wear masks or not, because it is not your guys' face, it is our face. It is our face getting acne, getting all of this stuff, and not yours. I play a contact sport, which is called water polo. We are in each other's faces, spitting water, coughing on each other, breathing on each other. There are tons of other sports at GHS. Currently, actually, 80% of our sports at GHS are contact sports. So why are we having to wear masks at school? It makes no sense. And those of us that have had COVID and have pushed through it and have recovered with no issues, we're fine. 2 weeks ago, when I was tested for my weekly COVID test for water polo, it came back false positive. I didn't know what that means. I was then sent home without any other statement from anyone. They said they're going to send it into the lab. Then, as soon as I got home, my mom was not contacted, and there was no further instruction. I then took an at-home COVID test, and it came back negative. All surprised to what it showed, negative. All that I was told at school right after my test was I could not attend the football game that night because it came back false positive. My parents were not notified about the results and were not told what to do and what I would be able to do. Therefore, why are y'all so worried about the narrative about wearing masks than you are about the protocol after a test is given? Let us students have the choice if we want to or do not want to wear a mask. Second off, the school board is elected and hired to represent the community and not a subset that only agrees with them. Corey, I know you are not here, but I know you are watching, and if you are not, please do. Corey, you know my family, and we all assisted you in your election campaign. You have commented that there is only a small percentage of people that oppose the board and superintendent. It is not a small amount. Many of Glendora residents, my grandparents' age, are not okay with you or with who you have become. You have betrayed Glendora and the voters. A true politician you have become. You owe my family an apology on what you have done. I have spent 13 years of my life in the school district, and I'm ashamed of I'm ashamed that all of the ones who you are representing our families. One last thing, Ms. Reuter. You also know my family and myself, and you betrayed the voters of Glendora. Thank you.
Alex, before you walk away, because you are a student, normally we don't respond to people that are giving comments. I just want to tell you that we are bound by, we are public entity, number one. Obviously, you're part of the public, but we are bound by guidelines and rules that we must follow as a public institution. So whether we agree with those rules or those guidelines doesn't give us an option. We have to follow them, or we lose insurance, they close us down, you wouldn't get to play water polo. I would hope that you would do some research and look at the LA County Department of Public Health guidelines for schools and get to be familiar with that, and maybe you'll understand some of the decisions that we've had to make. Thank you for coming and speaking. We appreciate the students. Kent Summer.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kent Sommer. I'm a Glendora resident, father of 3 kids that actually are going to Glendora schools at the moment. I'm actually here to briefly talk about the recent restriction that was made that prohibits Glendora soccer from practicing until after 5 p.m. at the schools. I'll fully acknowledge that there's a shortage and a lack of public parks in Glendora. That does not fall on the school. That's something that the city needs to fix. But I think what makes Glendora a fantastic community is the fact that the schools and many people come together when the city lacks funds or resources to allow for great things to happen in our community, such as youth sports and youth soccer. I've been coaching for 5 years, Glendora Youth Soccer. There's never been an issue with daycare or any of the students or any conflicts or anything. So I'm really not sure what recently happened that caused this change. But I'm sure whatever did happen, there's a solution that can allow for the students and the kids to participate in sports so that they're not having to practice at night in the dark which not allowing them to practice till after 5 will do. I currently coach a team. My wife coaches a team. We have 24 kids between the two of us in our 2 teams. 20 of those 24 kids are Glendora Public Unified School students. Many of your students after school go to daycare. Many more of your students, your kids, your students come back to school an hour or so later and participate in these youth sports programs. And they're great programs, and we're happy that the city puts them on and the school helps. But I don't understand, and I don't think whatever is suddenly stopping and preventing you from having, or this restriction, why it came about, I really feel like there's a solution that can be made to allow your students, again, your kids and your students to participate in these sports by allowing it and by not making it until 5. I'm sure you see it out there. It's really not possible to get this all in. And again, I would hope that, I really don't know why the restriction came about. I don't know who implemented it or what happened, but I implore, I request that you speak to these individuals, that you work with daycare. Again, I've coached for many years, never had an incident with daycare. There's plenty of spaces at the field. I'm sure something could come about to be for a solution for everyone, and I hope that you'll do something. Soccer season only lasts for another 6 weeks or so. I hope that you'll reverse it or come up with a solution soon so that, again, your students and your kids aren't harmed and they can participate in great community events. I know how important physical education is. I know you guys are proponents of it. This is a way that they get it through the community. So please do whatever you can, I request, to figure out a way to allow those sports practices to go forward as planned after.
I need to ask a quick clarification, Mr. Sommer. Which site are you referring to, or sites? Is it elementary level? Is it middle school?
It's my understanding that in all the elementary schools, and that started today, practices, which usually used to be able to start at 4 p.m., are not allowed to start until after 5 p.m. And so Sellers, Cullen, LaFetra, where we have most of our practices. I understand that Goddard we still can because that is up on the football field, city, but that the recent restriction applies to all elementary school fields for Glendora Youth Soccer, that we cannot go there and schedule practice until after 5 p.m., whereas just last week we could at 4 p.m.
We're going to go ahead and call you because I don't think that that is what we...
Okay, we got something from the division director and the Glendora Youth Soccer president notifying all coaches of this just last week. And then, like I said, we've received just that notification that you can't schedule practices at 4. My other son's team, his coach contacted him today and said, we'll be cramming ourselves into the FATRA with other teams at 5 because we can no longer coach or practice at 4. So if this is a misunderstanding, that'd be wonderful, and that'd be the best news ever. But just so you know, that is the communication that Glendora Youth Soccer is sending out to all coaches.
Thank you. That's good to know. And our Assistant Super of Business Services would be happy to go outside and meet with you and talk to you about that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Andrew Rivas.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. My name's Andrew Rivas. I go to Mount Sac, and I'm actually here because I have a younger brother who goes to Glendora. He's a senior. And every time I talk to him and he comes home, he tells me that he's sick of wearing this mask because of you guys. You guys do not care for our children, and if you guys want to keep your job, you guys better listen, not to science, because you guys have been listening to government for too long, and you guys have been listening to the CDC and Dr. Fauci. We do not want to comply with these mask mandates, and the children do not, okay? Overall, we put God first. Not science first, but God. Also, what I have to say is that if you guys are going to push the vaccine mandate here, you guys either need to resign or be fired, because you guys represent us, but you guys are representing yourselves. Last thing that I have to say. If you guys push this critical race theory crap, be ready to resign or be fired. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming in. We have student board members report next. Nadia, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. DeLeon and esteemed members of the school board. Tonight, I will be giving a student board report on Sellers in LaFetra Elementary, Goddard Middle School, and Whitcomb and Glendora High School. Sellers hosted an all-school flag salute on September 10th to commemorate 9/11. In addition, 85% of families are currently involved in their PTA. At LaFetra, PTA is coordinating student recognition assemblies once again to commemorate all students for their achievements. They're currently working on ways to do this safely to include families in these celebrations. Their 4th and 5th grade students are getting involved in music and choir, and they're looking forward to finding ways for these students to show off what they've learned. LaFetra would like to honor their interventionist, Mrs. Olive, for completing all ELA baseline assessments and helping students move out of intervention programs, and their intervention specialist, Mrs. Lopez, for guiding students and families coming back from distance learning to support their mental health. At Goddard, 6th and 6th grade students have the opportunity to meet with their 8th grade web leaders every Wednesday morning before school to enjoy fun activities. Furthermore, ASB hosted lunch activities every day the second week of school and plans to host games weekly from now on. Sports including basketball, volleyball, and cross country have started today, and every Thursday, Goddard students are encouraged to wear college and Avid gear. At Whitcomb, students have the opportunity to play games and engage in class contests for Wellness Week. Their first principal honorable breakfast will take place next month to honor their students of the month. Going forward, they're getting ready to set up for Red Ribbon Week. At Glendora High School, I'll start off with a brief recap of what ASB has done so far. We hosted our Welcome Walk the first week of school to replace our annual Welcome Back Assembly, and this functioned by having students come with their classes to different stations outside, such as band, cheer. We had water and speakers and our mascot there to get the full assembly experience while maintaining safety. And our Howdy Dance that Saturday could not take place on its set date, but ASB does not want it to be canceled. We're actually postponing it to turn it into a fun, maybe holiday event, but stay tuned for that. Students are off to a great start this year with Senior Sunrise in Luau. We're so glad to give our seniors the fun they deserve. Just last week, Club Rush took place where we had about 50 clubs set up tables at lunch to recruit members. We're so happy to see so many different interests and activities on campus this year. And last Friday, GHS Show Choirs held their first performance in 2 years, our annual Zumba Madness fundraiser. We had great turnout, and we are so glad to collaborate with local Zumba instructors once again, and stay tuned for Cabaret later this month. As for upcoming events, Homecoming is right around the corner. This week, for the first time, ASB is hosting a Spirit Week. Tomorrow is Taurus Day, Wednesday is Socks and Crocs Day, Thursday is Country versus Country Club Day, and Friday is School Gear. We're looking forward to our parade this Friday at 4 p.m. on Glendora Avenue. This parade will feature band and pageantry, class floats, homecoming princesses, and so much more, so make sure to not miss it. We will be able to host our assembly inside this time with a slight alteration. GHS seniors will get to spectate it from inside the gym, and every other class will get to watch it like in a broadcast from their classrooms. This Friday at 7 p.m., Glendora football will take on Ayala in a much-anticipated game, with the 2021 homecoming queen being crowned during halftime. On October 2nd, ASB presents the Greatest Show homecoming event. This event will be out on the basketball courts, and food and games will be available. Finally, GHS has partnered with NACAC virtual college fairs to connect with hundreds of colleges on each fair date. Students and families are able to watch presentations, ask questions, and demonstrate interest in schools, all without leaving home. Overall, GHS students are so glad to be back on campus and are looking forward to all of the fun activities and opportunities that are going to come their way soon.
Nice.
Thank you, Nadia. I think I can speak for all of the board members that we're very pleased to see all these activities happening, and it really warms us all to know that you guys are celebrating all week long and throughout the year. Thank you for your report. Any comments from the board for Nadia? Okay. Comments from members of the Board of Education. Dr. Fernando.
Good evening to everybody. Just a couple things. First of all, I hope everybody had a great time at homecoming this weekend, given the fact that last couple of years we've not been able to have such great events due to the COVID restrictions. Also, this Saturday I was able to attend Dr. Matt Brummett's process to moving to become a full doctor, and he's our principal at Glendora High School, so it was fun to see he and his family as he achieved that milestone, so we're incredibly proud of him. I also want to thank our custodians here at the district that, due to a number of student acts of vandalism, have been spending a lot of time, unnecessary amounts of time, on just the realities of social media and what that has meant for them in terms of fixing bathrooms, repairing bathrooms. All this at a time where we do have some kids in other parts of the world that walk a couple hours to go to school. So I just want to send a clear message to some of our students that view this as a form of entertainment, that education is something that is a benefit to us all, and we also need to be mindful of the consequences of our actions that are caused on members of our community, in this case, our custodians. So I want to thank the work of our custodians during this time. I also want to thank the work of Mr. Hart at the high school that is in charge of the Ethics Bowl. And I think based on the last two speakers that we had, the last couple speakers that we had, I think that Ethics Bowl team is an important piece of our curriculum at the high school, where we take a situation or a viewpoint and we view it through multiple perspectives, as opposed to one specific perspective, where we don't disregard different points of view, but we look at the data and we look at research as to how that perspective is informed. So again, I want to thank the work of Mr. Hart and the Ethics Bowl team. I think we have 3 Ethics Bowl teams, both at the sophomore, junior, and senior level, because that is really training our high schoolers to become well-rounded critical thinkers that are allowing our folks to become future citizens and leaders of this country. So want to thank that important work in light of what I've just heard. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. Mrs. Reuter.
Thank you very much. I would like to start out by giving a shout out to the Spartan Garden. I had a wonderful visit up there. I guess it was 10 days ago, last Saturday, where the Plants for the People folks and members of Sandberg's staff and a very industrious young Eagle Scout named James were up there getting ready for the kickoff for the Spartan Garden. I was quite impressed by the vision of what that space is going to become and how it is sort of growable at each level. They'll start with something and they'll be able to use all of that, and then they've got a goal to go to the next level. It really is impressive how much thought, effort, and work have gone into that. If anybody has a shipping container that they don't need, or like $50,000 for a shipping container, we'll be able to grow hydroponic lettuce for the entire district inside the shipping. I hope I'm correct. Hydroponic lettuce inside the shipping container. It really is super cool. I don't know if they're going to be doing another open house, or as the first 3 boxes, I believe, are going to be built on October the 16th, so that you'll be able to get a sense of what it's going to look like. But even the like the big sign out front that shows what the vision is really inspiring in not only teaching our students as far as just working with their hands and learning how to grow vegetables and fruits, etc., but having the outdoor classroom. It just really is an inspirational project. So I would recommend anybody that is in the area, maybe they'll be having more open houses for people to be able to check it out. It's certainly worth your time, and it's a really exciting and ambitious project here in the district that I'm really excited about. So Spartan Garden. I want to wish I like Ms. Borg, and after the student board members report, are really excited about all of the activities at the high school this week, leading up to the football game. I believe the football team is 6-0 right now, which is pretty awesome. I think maybe the other team is too, though, so it's going to be a good matchup. Yep. So good luck to all of our football players, and look forward to that. And then I also want to give a shout out to all of our counselors and mental health professionals and student support specialists. I understand that maybe the honeymoon period of being back to school in person is over, and the reality of what it's like for all these students and teachers to be back. And, we all, and no shame, me too, face challenges as we reemerge into normal everyday society this way. So I know that our teachers, don't want to forget about the teachers certainly, and all of the support staff certainly, but I know that a lot of our mental health professionals are really kicking it into overdrive right now with a lot of our students, and I certainly want to recognize them. That's all for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Ruger. I just have a couple of things. I wanted to share with the public that had a meeting with Drs. Schultz and Rasmussen from Citrus College last week to discuss many upcoming opportunities for our students, including they have something called the Citrus Promise,
Yes.
which is going to offer some free tuition to families in need. Plus the opportunity, we're going to be having classes that at the high school that will count as college credit. There's all kinds of great things that are happening now and that are going to be added, so please stay tuned for that. I was also privileged to attend the Teacher of the Year banquet this past Friday for LA County teachers, and our Glendora Unified Schools Teacher of the Year is Indu Alfendor, which she is just a joy to be around. She is a vivacious and fun and funny and serious and loves her students. I can see why she is the Teacher of the Year here. She's a TK2 special ed teacher at Stanton, and along with Dr. Najarro, Dr. De Leon, and Indu's husband, we enjoyed the afternoon honoring over 60 teachers in the county that were congratulated at the luncheon. So it was a great honor for her. And she was, she wore her alphabet pants and her question mark and exclamation point earrings. And, she's just really great.
She had finger puppets, don't
she
forget.
Did, yes.
She's amazing. She carries these...
That's all right.
She carries them in her purse to be able to
wave or, just talk to people.
She's phenomenal.
She is. She's great. She kept us laughing, let's put it that way. There are some upcoming celebrations I wanted to share with you. Awards, breakfasts, and luncheons at Whitcomb and Goddard this next week. And I also want to congratulate Dr. De Leon and the staff of Glendora Unified Schools for you're going to hear about this later on, $2 million in grants written for and coming to GUSD so far this year, which is kind of, in a sense, unheard of in a district like this. But because of the tenacity and the never say die attitude that this administration has brought to our district, we're getting some money that normally we wouldn't be getting, but it's for specified areas, and you're going to hear more about that later. But that's all I have. Thank you. Moving on to public hearing. Senate Bill 550 imposes requirements for the annual instructional materials public hearing that is required by Education Code 60119. SB 550 states that the Board of Education must hold a public hearing during the first 8 weeks after school begins to determine whether the district has sufficient textbooks and instructional materials. A public hearing will be held so that each pupil in each school in the district has or will have sufficient textbooks, instructional materials, or both in each subject that are consistent with the content and curriculum cycles of the curriculum framework adopted by the State Board of Education. So I need to open the public hearing. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Public hearing is open.
At this time, Dr. Kelson, if you would...
Dr. Kelson. Sorry.
Thank you, Superintendent De Leon and President Borg. This specific public hearing addresses an annual requirement that holds districts across the state accountable to ensuring that every student has access to the textbooks that are part of the state-adopted curriculum. We must, according to this law, purchase textbooks that are on a list of state-approved textbooks and see to it that annually we have enough of those materials in what I will call good working order, acceptable condition to issue to students so that they can learn and have the opportunity to gain knowledge that is required of them in the various state accountability measures. So please rest assured that through the good work of our library technicians, under the tutelage and support of our principals, IT has a part in this in terms of the electronic and digital resources, that our students have sufficient materials from those lists in order to do the learning that is required of them.
If there's anyone that would like to speak during the public hearing, you're welcome to stand up and come and speak. Anyone from outside?
No public comment.
Thank you. I declare the public hearing closed. Very good. Whoops. Staff presentations and information. Dr. De Leon.
At this time, I am very pleased to call Dr. Kelson and her team, who have prepared an informative presentation about the various new grants that we are getting, and I think one grant that we've reapplied for, so they're going to discuss those grants with you just to give an update. Dr. Kelson, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. De Leon, trustees, esteemed community. I'd like to welcome to the podium 3 members of the Education Services Department to talk with you about some funding that we've been able to secure. This evening, we're going to talk with you about 2 types of grants. One type is what you would call a state grant, that almost any district in the state can qualify for. Those grants are not light of work, nor are they light of requirements. However, they are generally an expectation of a school district, or in the case of one of the grants that you're going to be hearing about, of a special education local planning area, or SELPA. Our team, in addition to completing all the requirements of those state grants, is also very committed to going after competitive grants. Grants from private funding agencies, grants from various donors, and we are eager to continue to offer those enriching opportunities to our students. First, this evening, in alignment with District Goal 4, Strategic Initiative 4.2, about bringing in more grants and opportunities for students, we'd like to talk with you about the Low Performing Student Block Grant. I'd like to introduce Ms. Kristen Heathcote to talk with you a little bit about that grant.
Good evening. We're going to see if the clicker works. We're so excited about the clicker. Yay. So the Low Performing Student Block Grant is a state-funded grant that we received back in 2018-19 school year. And we are wrapping it up as of July 30th, or June 30th, excuse me, June 30th this year. As you can see on the board there, it's state funded. It was targeted towards students who were not performing well on the state assessment, the SBAC test, either in ELA or mathematics. And we focused on 3rd through 12th grade students. And we also had to look at our students that weren't part of the unduplicated counts. So students that weren't funded with special supplemental funds such as English learners or our special ed students. We received a nice chunk of money, as you can see, over $300,000. And we got that allocation in 2018-19 school year, and like I stated, we have completed it as of this June 30th. So what did we do with this money? Well, first we had to write a plan. Imagine that, a plan in education.
Shocking, shocking.
Yes. So our plan addressed various areas, and mainly we provided our students with additional supports. Some of those supports were either an extended school year, or i.e. summer school, or we also did intervention classes at the high school level for our high school students. Also, we could have used some before and after school programs to help with mitigate or increase academic achievement for these students. Happy to report that we did this successfully and that we will continue to monitor all of our students' progress, not just the students that were targeted for this grant, but all students. And there is a final report that will be due to CDE by November 1st. And some of those things that we're going to address in that will be, we need to describe the plan again to them. What strategies we used, and did those strategies increase academic achievement of the targeted students? And my next esteemed colleague.
Right, thank you guys for having me tonight. I'm going to talk to you about our Arts Advancement Grant. We are in the second year of our Arts Advancement Grant, and some of the background, as with pretty much any grant, you have to have a plan going in. So we have our 5-year strategic arts plan. Some of the requirements were you did have to have a board-approved plan before you could qualify for the grant. And our facilitation has been with the LA County Arts Ed Collective, as well as a partner at LACO, LA County Office of Education, NEMA, who came and did a big summer program with our teachers last year. There we go. Okay, so this is year 2. I am building on the awesome work of Dr. Summers and her crew, who worked so hard to get us this grant. And this year, we are awarded $21,900 from the Arts Collective, and then GUSD matches that with $21,900 from our Title II funds. Our planned expenditures direct services to students, professional development for our staff, training and materials to carry out their learning that they have in the arts program. We also, our projected outcomes are quantity, so more arts instruction for our elementary students. The quality, better arts instruction for our students, empowering our teachers to really take it to the next level and feel like the experts themselves. And experiences and exposure for our students that may not always have access to that. I know for, it's hard for us working parents to be able to take our kids to museums or experiences. So being able to have all of our students have our experiences with the arts. And now I hand it over to Dr. Murray.
Always short for this microphone. Good evening, everyone. The state this year has provided 2 grants to support students with special needs. The first one is the Alternative Dispute Resolution Grant. It is a grant that's designed to help districts develop an alternative dispute resolution process. Let me see if I can figure this out. And what is that, you might ask? The Alternative Dispute Resolution, or ADR, is an informal method of settling disagreements that may arise during an IEP meeting. So it's something that happens outside the IEP meeting if parents and school district don't agree on a particular service or a particular level of service. We can actually access this type of process to settle differences outside without having parents find the need to bring in outside advocates or attorneys. The purpose of it is to facilitate understanding and create solutions to conflict that support and strengthen relationships among participants. It really, at the foundation, is about building relationships. Any time that's, special education programs are going to be successful in a school district, it really is based on the relationships that you have with the parent community. And making those as strong as possible is going to help facilitate not just student achievement, but also communication with the parents. The grant award is $127,000, $127,434. I don't know why it has to be so specific, but it is. Funds must be expended by June 2023. And some of the activities that we're going to expend money on include certificated staff training, classified staff training, materials and supplies, and one of the bigger expenses is going to be consultant and contract expenses. And that has to do with just all the training that's going to take place for staff, as well as hiring or contracting with an independent facilitator to help facilitate some of the resolution sessions that will be coming up. And again, the projected outcome is just the development and implementation of a viable alternative dispute resolution process. The second grant is called the Learning Recovery Grant, and it is a grant where the state has given the district money to support students with special education with IEPs that have experienced learning loss or minimal progress or regression. And so they have given us $612,000, $612,813, which is a nice chunk of money, and it's going to allow us to do a lot of good things for students with IEPs. So this money also has to be expended by June 2023, so basically we have 2 years to utilize this money. And some of the activities that we're going to be utilizing it on are targeted after-school tutoring, staff training related to positive behavior supports. We're going to be providing additional assessments to determine student need. We're going to be providing ongoing social skills training for students. And we're going to provide school and summer enrichment activities. Hopefully during the summer we're going to be able to really kind of hit hard on the enrichment activities and really develop a nice program for the students with IEPs. And also provide training to staff related to disability awareness. And that's it. And off to Dr. Kelson.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. So an ongoing theme in each of these grant streams is a word you're hearing over and over again, which is the word students. These grants that the team is implementing or continuing to implement are really built around programs for students. The one exception is that need for a consultant to help us learn more about the alternative dispute resolution process. The Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act is a grant that many of us have known over the years as the Carl D. Perkins Vocational Education Act. It was renamed a few years ago. This grant brings $33,414 to materials and training for students in career and technical education programs. What's nice about this funding is a couple of years ago, it was expanded to be able to include students as low as the 5th grade, and our team is working diligently to bring more career exploration opportunities to students at an even younger age. In order to maintain this funding, we are required to submit numerous reports to the state of California. We must reapply annually, and my thanks not only to Mr. Eric Bondurant at Glendora High School, but also to a number of people in the Fiscal Services Department who help us meet these requirements. We must continue to align our programs with the elements of high-quality career technical education in order to maintain these funds. So even with all of the restrictions or accountabilities around these grants, we are able to work together with our staff, our students, and members of the community to bring more and more opportunities to students in the Glendora Unified School District. Are there comments or questions that the board would like to ask the team this evening?
Dr. Fernando?
No questions, just congratulations and great work, and continue this excellent sort of ongoing process that we've been having over the last year and a half of this crescendo of more grant acquisition. I think it's a really great step in the right direction.
Mrs. Reuter?
Not so much a question, but also a comment. I'd certainly like to thank you, Dr. Kelson, and all of your staff members. In fact, I'm really glad to see all of them here and appreciate their presenting tonight. I don't think I've I just am really glad to see them, especially you, Ms. Heathcote. I don't want to call you out this way, but it is great to see you. We get reports from you every week, and you're clearly working hard, and it's a pleasure to see you and hear from you directly. I'm assuming that all the grants are written by staff members, that we haven't hired any outside professional grant writers to try and capture these grants. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, I really do want to thank everybody for their hard work. I don't know a lot about grant writing, but I do know that it can be time-consuming and detail-oriented. So I want to thank everyone for their commitment and all the support services that go into getting the information that's necessary to provide all those grants. Our students deserve them, and I thank you all very much for all of your hard work in getting them. Thank you.
Well, they've said it all, but I would just like to add that oftentimes we're turned down. A little birdie has told me, our first round is often, sorry. And then what happens? Your tenacity, you guys go back again and rewrite it, or find out, look at a rubric, whatever they send, or you call and figure it out and then resubmit it. And oftentimes it takes a third time because of our socioeconomics, because someone else didn't claim it. So we've hung in there, and we're getting, am I correct with all of that as well?
Absolutely. The amount of diligence, I will give credit to the members of my team who spoke, to maintain, to reapply, to adjust. It's remarkable. Mm-hmm. And this team of individuals here goes above and beyond.
And I too am so grateful for that, because our students are worth it, our families are worth it, and this is an area that like Dr. Fernando said, the past year and a half has really taken a huge leap, and I'm so grateful to all of you. Thank you.
May I add something?
Of course.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Kelson, you and your entire staff for doing a really wonderful presentation and update on our grants. I think it's needed, and to help explain the grants to everyone. But I also want to draw the board's attention to the second slide, which had the objective, which is the actual district board goal and strategic initiative. And it is our intent that at every board meeting we will do a presentation, at least one presentation that addresses one of our strategic initiatives, to give an update about our progress towards that initiative. And it all kind of depends upon the reporting timelines and the data timelines that we have throughout the year. But our intent is all good thoughts that by the end of the year we have addressed and reported on our progress on every strategic initiative. And that is, in my view, how you continue to make forward progress towards the achievement of goals as you continue to go back to them, adjust, go back, and using, of course, the action research cycle. But in any case, I wanted to thank you and just bring that to the board's attention, that you will be seeing at every meeting that we will be addressing one of the strategic initiatives of the board goals. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I should have underlined it when I heard you mention it, and I was very pleased to hear that as well. Thank you. And I think that's important for our public to know, that we are responding to the goals, that you are responding to the goals that have been set by this board. Thank you so much. Nadia, I'm remiss in asking if you have any comments or questions for anything.
No, I don't have any comments.
Okay. If you do, please interrupt me if I forget to call on you. Okay. I was so engrossed in the report that I didn't look down the agenda.
It was fabulous.
So,
It was
yeah.
absolutely fabulous.
So we're to discussion action items. Approve, ratify resolution number 21/22-03, alternative interdistrict attendance program space availability, as presented, excluding applications from the districts of Azusa, Charter Oak, Pomona, and Roland for the 2022-2023. This is due to reaching capacity on the number of students who may transfer to Glendora from those districts through the District of Choice program.
This has to do with the cap.
Correct.
DOT cap.
Yes. It took me a little bit to understand that, but we have a cap that was set at the beginning of this agreement for a certain number of students that were allowed. And even as these students either move away or graduate, we may not replace them with any new students. So once the cap is reached, we're done. And
From those particular
from those particular districts. So we can't accept any more on the District of Choice program from them. I need a motion.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Reuter, seconded by Dr. Fernando. Any discussion?
I do think it's important, and it's in our notes. I'm not sure who the most appropriate person to ask for or ask is for the districts that aren't capped, how many I don't know what page it's on. How many students are we able to take from, what sort of numbers are we looking at as far as the ability to accept students from outside districts under the District of Choice program? I see it on page 8.
Yes.
I don't know if you can scroll to page 8 in the, there we go.
Count up 50, 50.
Just to give the public an idea of how many potential spots we have open for District of Choice.
460. It looks like we have a total. Here it is.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
860 total openings.
And do we have any idea, and this is an on-the-spot question, about how many students, let's say, forget about obviously last year and maybe even 2019, maybe, we received through the District of Choice program in 2019, like a ballpark? Oh, Mr. Osborne has the data.
I'd like to invite Mr. Osborne, our Executive Director of Student and Family Services, who is actually prepared to address us this evening. Thank you.
Good evening. It's nice to see everybody. Can you repeat the question? Was it 2019?
Whenever you have the last, I don't know when the most recent data set that you would have given the COVID, everything that happened. When the last countable year you have, could you tell me about how many students and what year that was?
Absolutely. I actually have all the data for you, but in 2019-20, we accepted 41.
Total?
Total.
Between all
Or excuse me, it was 43 for 2019 and 20 school year, and it was 67 for 2018 and 19.
Out of 860 slots.
So we overestimate the number of students that we would like to provide spots for, knowing that we most likely will not fill those spots. If we do fill the spots of everybody listed here, then we would go to a lottery that will be held on January 24th, 2022.
Okay. And approximately how many students are we losing through declining enrollment every year? No, maybe not for you, maybe for her.
About 200.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Somewhere between 150 to 200 students.
So between 150 to 200 students we're losing through declining enrollment. And in 2018 is the highest in recent years. We've had 67 students that are coming in anywhere from TK to grade 12. It's not necessarily that we're accepting them in TK or whatever the case might be. Whatever grade they might be in is when we'll accept them. And so we do get the average daily attendance rate of 8,000.
Don't have that figure in front of me. I
Okay,
apologize.
per student, for those students that come from the district, which is why there's a cap, so that we don't take too much money from another school district that way. But the bottom line is the District of Choice program is filling a need that this school district really has by declining enrollment, and also not taking spots away from any Glendora resident, is what I'm trying to make clear.
That is correct.
Yep.
And I would say it's helping to fill a need, because it clearly does not equal 150 to 200 students. And once these 43, I'm using 43, are gone, we can't refill their spots if we've reached the cap with that district.
And this is a real big question. Do you know if the state has considered any legislature that would sort of reopen? I know that it was intended to be whatever they call it, a sundowning, sunsetting program, where it was never going to be a forever. Do you know? And I moved to California after this happened, but I understand that it happened in response to sort of the 2008 recession and the impact that districts took because of the finances that way, where you allowed for a little bit of movement this way. Has anybody heard if the state is considering any more legislature as far as opening it up or not, removing the caps at the time? I understand a moving cap, but a firm cap is pretty tough.
I can speak to enrollment trends across the state. I can't speak to legislation. Would you like me to speak to the enrollment trends?
Sure.
So 60% of school districts in the state of California are in decline. 20% of them are steady, and 10% are growing. With those numbers, and that's according to the California Association of School Business Officials, or CASBO. So with those trends, I think one could predict what is or isn't likely to happen with laws that respond, right? If a district is losing students year over year, to have an idea of losing more students to a neighboring district is even more devastating. So, I'm sorry.
No, I'm frustrated at the system.
So I can add to that, districts, superintendents of districts that are not district of choice that lose students, it is devastating. Having been in that seat in a previous district, without the cap, it was even more devastating in the years before the cap, but even at the cap, it's a lot. And so in declining enrollment, Dr. Kelson is absolutely right, is that's a double whammy for those districts. And so sometimes legislation follows, and we don't know. We haven't heard that it will, but that is sometimes the case. And they do call. I remember as a superintendent in a non-DOC district with two neighboring DOC districts, I was making those calls. How about you cut off that number? Because it really affects ADA and your funding. And so in any case, and I've had those calls here from other districts, and so it's really hard on those districts, for sure.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Number 2, approve, ratify resolution number 21/22-4, determination of sufficient textbooks and instructional materials for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. I need a motion, please. It's been moved by Mrs. Reuter and seconded by Dr. Fernando. Any discussion here? We've kind of talked about it already. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Motion carries 3-0. Number 3, approve, ratify board policy, AB 130, second reading as presented. I need a motion.
Do you?
Do you? I think this is just reading.
I think this is just the second reading.
Oh, well, we have to approve it to go forward one more step, because you'll get the final copy next time. Is that correct?
Actually, we really would love to have an approval on the second reading. So if possible, normally the second reading is the final reading and approval of the item.
Okay. Are you ready to approve?
I would just say for the public's benefit, can we remind everybody what the
process is?
Yeah, no, what AB 130 is, what we're approving right now.
Dr. Kelson or Mr. Osborne could present. Please.
Thank you. So this new board policy is based on education code that was amended by Assembly Bill 130, which changes our practices specific to independent study. It is in response to the needs presented by the COVID-19 situation, pandemic, as well as some extra accountabilities for course-based independent study. You can think of those as a high school student needing to pick up an English class as part of a credit recovery, or maybe even in some places an acceleration of their high school experience. So this law is a new supportive measure for students across the state to see to it that they have access to education during these challenges.
Any other questions by board members? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reuter, seconded by Dr. Fernando. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so we have a 3-0 vote. Consent items. The Board of Education may consider agenda consent items as a whole or as individual decisions. Any item may be removed by a member of the board for discussion. Does anyone have an item they'd like removed? I'm going to ask that we remove B4, the high school field trip, just so that we can explain it a little more, the procedure for that. Okay, so can I have a motion, please?
Then I move we approve all consent items except for item B4 as a blanket motion.
Sorry.
It has been moved by Mrs. Reuter and seconded by Dr. Fernando. And we do have a little discussion here. I have a question, and I'm not sure who this would go to, but it is a field trip by cross country, and I would just like to know what's going on as far as COVID restrictions, and you explained a little bit of it to me the other day, but I thought it would be nice for the public to know for field trips for kids.
We will absolutely do that, but we need to finish the motion on the floor, which is the blanket for the consent, and then go back and bring B4 as an action, and then have discussion.
I'm sorry, we need to vote then on
Yes,
the rest
on
of
the
it.
consent blanket.
I apologize.
No worries.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries 3-0. Sorry.
No worries. Action item.
Action item B4, which says, let me read it here. Approve, ratify the Glendora High School field trip as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Reuter and seconded by Dr. by Dr. Fernando. Dr. Daly.
At this time, Dr. Kelson, are you prepared to give the board, and sort of an update and what we're doing for safety procedures for this
extra
trip?
Criteria and
all of it. Yes, please. Summarize.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. De Leon. And what is significant about item B4 is that this is the first opportunity for a sports team at Glendora High School to travel out of the county for an overnight competition, really since in the last 18 months, since March of 2020. The accountabilities to the team, meaning the district team, are significant. In addition to ensuring that students are safe and well supported, as is our obligation anytime we have students in our care, the extra measures that are involved here because of the health codes and changes are paramount. So meeting, and if you'll excuse me, this is a really difficult mask to speak in. The accountabilities are elevated because of the health codes. So we have to identify which students are vaccinated, which students are not vaccinated. That is a very confidential process undertaken by our health clerks. In addition to that, we are required to see to it that students have COVID tests before departing and that they remain asymptomatic or without a fever or other signs of physical ailment while they are traveling. We are also required to see to it that they are asymptomatic throughout the trip and when they return. In addition to those accountabilities, each of the students who have not yet been vaccinated were contacted by, confidentially again, by a member of the Glendora High School administrative team, and given the guidelines that are in the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health orders personally. We want our families to know that their student safety is of greatest significance to us, and that we gave them the opportunities to decide with no penalty before leaving that the meet in Clovis is the most important thing for their child. And here's where this becomes a little bit complicated. We have to treat this trip as the potential for students to come in close contact with another person who is contagious. And in order to prevent the spread of COVID and, the consequences there to individual students, students were advised that they may, in fact, be asked to quarantine for extra time upon returning from the meet. And because we support our students academically and then secondarily on the athletic field or in activities or in the arts, we wanted to make sure that each family has the opportunity to make that decision on their own. Our team also is working on some extra accommodations. There are safety guidelines for the transportation company that we wanted to be certain that we had in place. All of that said, what will keep our students safe? It's that transparent, proactive communication. It's the respecting of our families' confidentiality, of our students' individual choices, so that those families who are going to decide to send their students to this meet, the first overnight meet for an athletic team at GHS since the pandemic, have the opportunity to do so, knowing exactly what the orders and guidelines allow. Final step, we've also reached out to the County Public Health Department to confirm, because the orders changed again mid-last week. In fact, just today they released some new guidelines for youth sports teams. So we have asked them to provide in writing exactly what the directives are so that we can forward that information on to families. And I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on that, but I am confident in the measures that we've taken to this point.
You mentioned overnight. That must mean a hotel.
That is correct.
So you've had to make sure the hotel is cleaned, and what are the accommodations? Is it one student per room, or?
It will depend on the choices that the families make. It's a large invitational meet, so we'll have fewer students in each room than we normally would. The team looked into some extra accommodations to be able to further social distance students while also keeping them chaperoned and safe.
Thank you very much.
And then just to back it up just a little bit, in talking with the have a ticket member that's waiting as a response back to us with our questions that we did ask. Just recently, the regulation actually said that within 120 miles within the county area, right? So That really kind of had some bigger restrictions on it, so the most recent restrictions just recently changed that, and so we're just trying to make sure that we have it in writing exactly what the new guidelines are. Again, this keeps changing almost on a daily basis. We continue to monitor that to be able to help support our students and ensure they have the opportunity to be able to go enjoy and experience such an activity. And this will be, we hope, the first of many that get to happen for our students.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that information with the public and the board as well.
There's some questionable characters on this team, so it's good that.
Yes, I'm sure there are.
But they're fast.
We need to take a vote on B4. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 3-0. And thank you for all of you for indulging me on that. I just thought it was important that the public understand. Which brings us to the adjournment.
May I do
Yes, and I wanted to, yes. Since Dr. De Leon didn't do a superintendent's report tonight, she has a thank you.
Yes, my report is actually a thank you. As many of you know, I was out at the last board meeting. I actually had a pretty serious emergency with my eyes and some temporary blindness and ended up having surgery in both eyes. I am doing well now and able to see, still some swelling but inside my eyes, but I'm okay. But really, I only tell you that to say that while I was gone, my team really stepped up. Many thanks to Dr. Kelson, who filled in as interim superintendent for me, or my designee for me, filled in at the board meeting, and then everybody really just stepped up to support in every way possible. So I have to thank my entire team and all the well wishes of the board and everybody that kind of helped me get through a really pretty scary time. Blindness is no joke. It's pretty frightening when it happens. And so many thanks, Dr. Kelson, and to our cabinet and our entire team for pulling together to make sure that everything went very smoothly. And I got lots of compliments, and so I want to thank you all. Thank you, trustee.
Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Fernando beat you out. It has been moved by Dr. Fernando and seconded by Mrs. Merkley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried, and we are adjourned at 8:15. Thanks all for coming.